I assumed my marital dissolution would be characterized by uproar, blame, and despair. I envisioned melancholic evenings swilling whiskey, scrutinizing past wedding mementos, questioning the course of events. Yet, an unexpected sequence unfolded when my wife, Sophia, calmly stated across the dinner table, "I'm not content anymore." An internal mechanism seemed to halt within me. I didn't display any emotion, not tears, not outrage, not even a blink. Sophia watched me attentively, anticipating a reaction. Perhaps she anticipated me clinging to her hands, imploring her, vowing to improve, or perhaps she expected romantic gestures, swearing we could mend the fractures. However, I refrained. Instead, I put down my fork, wiped my mouth with a napkin, and directly inquired, "Is there someone else?" My query was blunt, frosty, devoid of emotion. Sophia momentarily hesitated. A brief flash of surprise crossed her face before she concealed it behind detachment. She chuckled softly, shaking her head. "Why do you inquire thus?" I leaned back in my seat. "Since it's not out of the blue." She nibbled on her lower lip, pushing away her plate as if she had lost her desire to eat. Then, with a hint of self-satisfaction in her posture, she stated, "I guess. I no longer believe we suit each other well." I nodded slowly, contemplating. I knew that wasn't true. This wasn't about compatibility. This was about her having one foot outside the relationship. I could see it now, the evening when she came home later than usual, the newfound enthusiasm for gym workouts, the constant downward orientation of her phone while we sat on the couch together. Perhaps there was someone else. Perhaps not. But I had my conclusion. She had moved on. Yet surprisingly, so had I. Sophia waited, apparently anticipating a reaction, a protest, an emotional plea, perhaps even an argument. Instead, I rose from my seat, picked up our dinner plates, and carried them to the sink. Dear friends, if you enjoy this story, please like and subscribe to our channel. It will motivate us to make more videos like this for you. "All right," I stated casually, causing Sophia to look surprised. "What's up?" I washed the dishes, turning on the faucet. "All right," I echoed again, maintaining a calm tone. "If you wish to depart, feel free." This seemed to bother her, as it wasn't the response she had anticipated. She may have envisioned this scenario multiple times in her mind, imagining my distress, my entreaties, and her enduring the emotional strain before ultimately deciding to prioritize herself and leaving. However, I was making this choice simple for her. I could sense her thoughts racing. "Hold on. Why aren't you trying to keep me?" She adjusted her position, her confidence waning slightly. "I mean, I don't wish to discard everything so carelessly. We've spent a lot of time together." Ah, now it appears she wants to proceed with caution, keeping her alternatives in mind. I switched off the sink and faced her, drying my hands with a towel. "You've already discarded it, Sophia." She gasped, taken aback by this response. She declared it unfair, to which I gave a faint, serious smile. "Fairness? You entered our discussion with a predetermined choice, and I am merely abiding by it." She bit her lip, appearing unsure of what to say. "I never stated that I was leaving immediately." There it is, she wanted time, transition, perhaps a few weeks or months to explore her options before fully committing to departure. That wouldn't transpire. I moved towards the bedroom, and initially she didn't follow, but curiosity or worry eventually won over. "Where are you going?" she inquired timidly. I remained silent. I ventured into her wardrobe, retrieved a large suitcase, and placed it on the bed. Upon seeing this, her eyes widened. "What are you doing?" I began to gather her garments and carefully fold them into the case. "Assisting you in packing," was my response. She stiffened. For a moment, all her bravado vanished from her face. She hadn't anticipated this. She expected me to plead, she expected sorrow. She assumed control would be hers. Instead, I was offering her a way out. No fuss, no negotiations, a simple breakup. Her Adam's apple bobbed as she swallowed. "Ethan, let's discuss this first." I met her eyes. "What is there to talk about?" She looked at the suitcase, taken aback by the suddenness of it all. I didn't. "I don't mean to rush things." Of course not. She needed time to weigh her choices, to consider if leaving me was truly advantageous before making it final. She wanted to keep the hope of reconciliation alive while exploring alternatives. I wouldn't allow it. I filled half the suitcase and zippered it halfway before turning to face her. "I'll stay in the guest room tonight. Take all the time you need to pack the rest." Her mouth opened slightly, as if to speak, but she remained silent. I snatched my pillow off the bed, stepped around her, and shut the guest room door after myself. For the first time in years, I felt unburdened. There was no longer a need to battle for someone who didn't reciprocate my feelings. No more expending energy to validate my worth. I was liberated. As for Sophia, she was soon to regret every decision she had just made. That night, I sat in the half-dark guest room, gazing at the ceiling, anticipating the usual anguish that followed such a situation. Yet it never arrived. I anticipated the customary heartache, the constant reminder of my shattered marriage, the bitter taste of rejection, the compulsion to cling to the life I had crafted with Sophia. Instead, I experienced clarity. For the first time in years, everything became clear. Sophia's words, her hesitation, her efforts to keep her options open, it all became predictable. It wasn't a sudden loss of affection for me. It wasn't an impulsive decision to seek something new. For quite some time now, I had chosen to ignore what was happening. In retrospect, I should have recognized the gradual decline of our marriage. Warning signs had been present for months, perhaps even years. Initially, they were subtle changes in her behavior that seemed insignificant at first. She used to brighten up upon my entry, her eyes would grow soft, and she'd welcome me with a kiss, regardless of her busy schedule. However, over time, this changed. Our encounters transformed into transactional exchanges, brief greetings, quick pecks on the cheek, hurried conversations that felt more like routine than affection. Then came the phone habits. Sophia had always been attached to her phone, but there was a shift. She began to conceal the screen from me, placing it face down whenever we were on the couch. When it buzzed, she'd glance at it and hide it as if she didn't want me to see. I convinced myself it was unimportant. I convinced myself she was merely browsing social media and had grown more secretive, so I didn't feel the need to pry since we had mutual trust. However, trust isn't about concealing reality due to fear of unknown truths. Added to this were the late nights. Sophia, who usually had a demanding job, would often message me during the day, eagerly informing me of her expected arrival time. Then, suddenly, she stopped. Initially, it was occasional late work meetings. Later, it became a consistent trend. Work kept her late. "Don't keep me waiting. I'm going out for drinks with colleagues. I won't be home early. Had to eat dinner with the team due to a tight project deadline." It wasn't her staying up late that troubled me. It was the indifference. She had stopped sharing details of her day, expressing interest in mine, or wanting to spend time together at all. And every time I inquired about this change, she grew irritable. "Do you doubt me? Are you being overly suspicious? Why are you always acting like I'm hiding something?" God, Ethan, it wasn't all about you. At the time, I might have been overthinking things, attributing her behavior to stress, or maybe thinking I was asking too much of her. But now, as I lie here in this guest room, I see the stark reality. I didn't lose her. I had lost her long ago. She had been absent for quite some time. Our initial encounter brought to mind our chance meeting at a friend's party, one of those events where neither of us wished to be present. Yet, we found each other. Bold, witty, brimming with life she was, pulling me onto the dance floor despite my two left feet, laughing as I fumbled over my own shoes. We spoke for hours that night, and I recall thinking then, this is it. This is the woman I can spend my life with. For a while, we were good together. We traveled, lazed on lazy Sundays in bed, shared dreams, discussed our pasts, and created inside jokes no one else understood. She was my confidante. At some point, she wasn't there anymore, and I couldn't say exactly when it happened. It wasn't a single explosive incident or dramatic moment. Instead, it was a quiet, gradual slip away, like sand slipping through my fingers before I even realized I no longer had a grip on anything. She stopped finding humor in my jokes, stopped taking my hand in public, stopped viewing me as the man she desired. Perhaps it was boredom, Perhaps it was someone else. Perhaps she had been waiting for me to bring up our issues first. However, it didn't matter in the end, because I no longer wished to fight for someone who did not want me. A gentle knock on the guest room door interrupted my thoughts. I chose not to respond. Another knock followed, then her voice, tentative. "Ethan?" I let out a weary sigh, running my hand across my face. "Yes?" There was a moment of silence. "Can we talk?" I sat up but did not move to open the door. "About what?" Her voice was softer now, hesitant. "I just—" "Similar to what?" "Sophia? Like you planning to depart and me conceding." She let out a sharp breath. I could sense growing irritation in her tone. "I didn't expect you to surrender so readily." And there it was. She sought a response. She yearned for opposition. She craved validation, even as she prepared to abandon me. I rose, approached the door, and slightly opened it to see her face. Her arms were folded, her countenance a blend of annoyance and perplexity. I met her eyes, remaining inscrutable. "You chose, Sophia. I'm merely facilitating your choice." Her Adam's apple moved as she swallowed. "Is that it?" "Exactly so." I leaned against the door frame, my tone tranquil. I could argue. I could plead. I could attempt to persuade you to remain. But let's be frank, would it alter anything? She looked away. "I'm uncertain." I smiled. "I am." She tried to speak, but no words emerged. For the first time, she wasn't in command. Regret flashed momentarily on her face, but it was too late. I provided an effortless escape. Now she must bear the consequences of her choice. The following morning, I rose before dawn, not due to insomnia, but because serenity had returned to my thoughts. There was no more oppressive burden on my chest, no persistent questions about what might have been altered. I no longer needed to awaken beside someone preoccupied. For the first time in a while, I felt able to draw breath freely. I heard Sophia stirring in the bedroom, sounds of drawers opening and closing, clothes being arranged, then discarded into her luggage. She was not careful or meticulous. She acted with exasperation. I did not inquire about her welfare. I didn't offer assistance. She had made up her mind. I simply granted what she desired. After a few hours, she stood by the front door, her suitcase at her side and keys in hand. At the kitchen table, I sipped my coffee while mindlessly scrolling through my phone as if this day were no different from any other. She throat cleared, signaling her departure. "I suppose I'm off now," she said. I looked up and nodded in response. "Take care." Her grip tightened on the suitcase handle. "Is that all you have to say?" I released a long breath, leaning back in my chair. "What do you expect me to say, Sophia? That I'm devastated, that I can't fathom life without you, that I'll sit here, waiting for you to change your mind?" She hesitated, but didn't respond. I shook my head. "I won't plead with you, Sophia. If that's what you want, then go." A fleeting emotion flickered across her face, something akin to regret, but she swiftly concealed it. She picked up her luggage and exited the house. She paused before getting into her car, casting one final glance at our home. I remained motionless. I didn't pursue her. I simply sipped my coffee and watched as she drove off. And thus, after 5 years of matrimony, she was gone. Initially, I anticipated experiencing some emotion, be it sadness or relief, but instead, tranquility enveloped me. She believed I'd combat for her, assumed I would crumble, and considered herself the dominant force. However, she was now departing from the finest thing she had ever possessed, a fact she would soon recognize. Days slipped by, followed by a week, then two. I refrained from contacting her, neglecting to inquire about her well-being through mutual acquaintances. Instead, I concentrated on myself, attending the gym daily, renewing connections with old friends, and excelling at work assignments more than before. Consequently, Sophia started observing me from afar. She didn't message, yet her presence was palpable. Despite still following me on social media, she scrutinized my updates more closely. She witnessed the gym attendance confirmations, the social outings, and posts expressing genuine joy. For the first time, Sophia beheld a side of me that she hadn't anticipated. She thought I'd disintegrate without her presence. Instead, I transformed into my optimum self, which seemed to be troubling her. It was at a friend's social gathering where I first laid eyes on her since her departure. I hadn't intended to see her. In fact, I wasn't aware of her presence there. However, upon entering the backyard with drink in hand, I found her by the fire pit, looking directly at me. Her gaze revealed hesitation, regret, and uncertainty. I paid no special heed to her initially, instead greeting others around her, shaking hands, exchanging laughter. I remained unperturbed. It was then that she approached me after an hour, flashing a smile as if nothing had transpired. "Hey, stranger," she said. I took a sip from my drink, nodded in response. She let out a quiet laugh and shifted her weight. "I didn't know you'd be here." I looked straight into her eyes. "Why should that matter?" Her smile faded slightly. "It doesn't. Just surprised, that's all." There was a sharpness in her tone, a suggestion of unsaid words. I recognized it immediately. She presumed I would be shattered, avoiding locations where she might appear. Instead, I was thriving. I extended the quiet, then slightly tilted my head. "How's your life?" she inquired tersely. "Quite well," I replied. "Merely so-so," was her response. I gave her a deliberate, knowing nod. "Glad to hear it." Then I walked away, leaving her standing there. In that instant, I knew. She was understanding her loss. The remorse was just emerging. She thought she would discover something superior, but all she discovered was the void where I once stood. And the most satisfying aspect? She was the one who departed. She made her own bed. Now she had to lie in it. I never advocated for revenge, not the dramatic, film-style kind. Nevertheless, if there was one thing I learned, it was that the best revenge wasn't about demonstrating someone was wrong. It was about proving yourself right. Dedicated myself to constructing a fulfilling life, such that I would never feel remorse over departures past. Consequently, this was my course of action. I dedicated unparalleled attention to self-improvement. I immersed myself in the gym, pushing weights beyond usual limits, running distances longer than ever before, challenging my body to extremes I previously thought impossible. Each repetition, each dash, each bead of perspiration was not driven by rage. It was propelled by liberation. For years, I had been stuck, attempting to please a woman who had ceased valuing me long ago. I had allowed myself to deteriorate not merely physically, but mentally and emotionally. I had given my all to someone who reciprocated nothing. However, now, I was evolving into the man destined for me. Powerful, intellectual, focused. I rekindled relationships with friends I had ignored during my marriage. We socialized more, discovered new eateries, embarked on road trips, created memories. I reconstructed my life anew, not the one fashioned around her. Furthermore, success followed me at work as well. Free from the burden of a faltering marriage, my productivity significantly increased. I sealed deals, acquired new clients, and was advanced to a senior position within a few months. Success felt instinctive to me. As for Sophia, she observed it all unfold. At first, it was merely subtle indications. Stalking, I noticed her name appear among my Instagram story viewers. She watched everything: my gym advancements, my professional victories, even the trivial details like when I posted a picture of a self-cooked steak. Perhaps she thought I was merely performing. Maybe she believed I was feigning it, anticipating her contact so I could reclaim her. However, I wasn't pretending. I was genuinely content, and I knew that was driving her mad. The first time she truly contacted me, it was timid. A casual text, seemingly out of the blue. "Hey, something reminded me of you. Wishing you well." I pondered on it for a moment. After choosing not to reply, I found her regretting it. Our next encounter was unplanned, at the grocery store, not in a shared gathering. I was selecting fruits for the week in the produce section when I heard my name. "Ethan," I turned, and there she was. She appeared different, not worse, but lacking the self-assuredness that once radiated from her. For the first time, she seemed uncertain about her decision. I offered a courteous nod. "Sophia." She smiled, feeling awkward. "It's been some time." I nodded again. "Indeed, it has." A moment of silence. She cast a glance at my shopping cart, focusing on the fresh produce, protein shakes, and clean diet items that symbolized my self-care. "You look well," she remarked. I understood her sentiment. It wasn't just about my physical appearance. She was acknowledging that I had moved on, no longer under her control. She received a modest smile from me. "Thanks, things are good for me." Her face showed uncertainty. "Really?" She'd been observing. I chuckled softly. "Indeed." She hesitated, then bit her lower lip. "I've missed our conversations." This was the first crack in her composure. I tilted my head subtly. "Yes." She nodded, moving a step nearer. "I don't know. I've been deep in thought lately. I didn't express it before." I allowed the silence to linger, allowing her to hear the weight of her own remorse. And then she sighed. It seemed she hadn't anticipated these feelings. She believed she'd find freedom. She expected happiness. Instead, she felt hollow. "Not my responsibility." I gave a carefree shrug. "Well, you made your decision." Her breath caught slightly. "Ethan." "Right." But before she could utter her planned excuse, I looked at my watch. It was time for me to leave. She appeared taken aback by my nonchalance about our upcoming meeting. She had anticipated that I would be eager for this conversation and provide an opportunity for her to speak. Instead, I treated her as if we were mere acquaintances from the past. With a sigh, she managed to smile. "I see." "Indeed." "Well, it was nice running into you." I gave a brief nod, returning her guarded greeting. "You too, Sophia. Stay safe." And with that, I departed. I could sense her eyes following me, rooted in the middle of the grocery store, perhaps realizing for the first time that she no longer held sway over me. She left behind something genuine, something steady, something no other man would offer her as consistently. Now, she was beginning to comprehend this truth. However, I had already moved on. The indications were gradually becoming apparent: her constant monitoring of my social media, the unanswered "How are you?" messages, the supposedly accidental encounters that I knew were not mere coincidences. Sophia was no longer lurking. She was assessing if there was an opportunity for her return. However, the issue was that I had already shut the door previously. The pivotal moment occurred on a Friday night. After returning from a business dinner, my phone rang with a call. Initially, I considered ignoring it, thinking it was a friend, but then I recognized the caller's name, Sophia. For a second, I contemplated not answering, but out of curiosity, I did. "Hello," I said. There was a brief pause, followed by a soft breath. "Ethan," she said. Her voice sounded different this time, raw, broken, and desperate. I remained silent, allowing her to speak first. After a moment, she admitted that she shouldn't be calling me, but she felt compelled to talk to me. I slouched on the couch, gazing up at the ceiling. A pause ensued before she spoke, taking a deep breath. "Ethan," she admitted. "What is it?" The words hung between us in stillness. "Everything. Leaving you, assuming you wanted something more, thinking I'd be happier without you." Her utterance echoed with remorse from the past few months. There was no response from me, not needed at that moment. She continued, her voice quivering slightly. "I thought I desired freedom, sought something else. But after I left, I understood it didn't matter the new place, the presumed thrilling life I yearned for, because I had everything I required when I was with you." Her confession would have broken me then, but now it left no impact on me. "I've outgrown you," I realized silently, rubbing my temple wearily. "I miss you, Ethan," she whispered softly. "You long for the comfort. You long for knowing I was constantly there for you. Yet, you don't yearn for me. If you did, you wouldn't have departed." Truthfully, that summarizes it. A brief moment of quiet passed. Then she quietly asked, "Is there even a remote possibility for us?" I hesitated briefly before responding. And then I finally told her what she needed to hear. "I provided an easy departure, Sophia, and you took it." After a pause, I pronounced the final verdict. "I'm not the kind of man who can be picked twice." She gasped audibly, as if struck in the stomach. For the first time, she fully understood her actions. She had bet on something genuine, and she lost. I could hear her struggling to maintain composure, searching for words to mend what couldn't be repaired. But I was through. I had nothing more to offer her. I concluded with only a remaining phrase, "Look after yourself, Sophia." Afterward, I disconnected. For a while, I remained seated, gaze fixed on my phone, anticipating some emotion. A twinge of sorrow, a whiff of nostalgia. Yet there was nothing. No rage, no agony, no yearning. Just tranquility. As I disconnected, I realized I had triumphed. Not because I retaliated, not because I proved anything to her. I prevailed because I advanced. And she remained with nothing but remorse. And that was her true penalty.